Thank you for taking this moment to breathe and to listen to what can change your life forever. My name is Dragna Zinikas, and I'm the founder of Starpreneur TV, How to Dominate the Decade talk show, World Women Conference and Awards, and the creator of Coral Desk. My mission is to empower through education, and thank you for joining us today, because by doing this, you are investing in your personal growth. Thank you very much. Today, we have the honor to talk with Georg Merilo, and he's an Estonian freelance trainer with 19 years of experience in conducting trainings related to personal strategic planning and international negotiations. So today we are going to talk about the art of negotiations. Welcome, Georg. Georg, tell us who you are, and tell us your story. Why are you really doing what you're doing, and what is your passion?
First of all, Ragnar, thank you for inviting, and what a pleasure it is to see you again, even virtually. Yes, I do represent a narrow yet deep field named the art of negotiations. And I'm doing it because I felt at some point that it's impossible that our species, Homo sapiens, has developed in so many different fields enormously, you know, discovering all those planets and traveling around, etc., etc. But yet behind the negotiation table, we are kind of the same as we were 100 years ago. So I started to examine it. And let's say 20 years ago or so, I had an honor to see how our former president negotiated, and how our Minister of Economic Affairs and the other top doers in a business and in macro processes. And I realized that the entire process of negotiations can be reduced. And as a result, long story short, 20 years later now, I can tell that for example, conducting negotiations with Walmart, we reduced the time. We reduced, let's say, 5 to 6 times. So instead of 60 minutes, we spent from beginning to closing, say, 10 to 12. And of course, it works only on a condition that you prepare enormously. So the normal ratio of preparation to the real thing is about 8 to 1, which means that, Ragnar, should you have tomorrow negotiations with, say, Warren Buffett, then when you prepare 8 hours today, then tomorrow this 60 minutes will be like a picnic for you.
Beautiful. I think the preparation is the key to any kind of success, and obviously negotiations can't be any different. But we will dig a little more deeper on that in a little while when I have more questions about it. But let's understand who Georg really is. Like, how do you distinguish yourself in business and in life? We all are very unique in our own way. And what do you think, what draws people to you for your advice?
I'm glad you mentioned this uniqueness thing. And at one point, I realized that my personal life, I mean, me carrying my personal identification number, that I have this unique life. And I started to ask that whether I'm the one who is just, I'm sorry for the word, just successful, or I can make a change. And I'm very, very glad, Ragnar, that your Coral Desk thing and this domination of the decade basically has the same flag, you know, up there, of making the change. And I realized that when I teach tens and tens and tens of top managers and entrepreneurs, that there will be a change just for them. And being similar to you, from a relatively small country, or let's say in Chinese terms, a small village called Estonia with our 1.3 something million, I realized that as a result of my work, when when the final day will come, I was just the teacher of businessmen and maybe good professional negotiators. Let others give the evaluation. And so I realized that in order to make this giant leap, one has to go to teach youngsters. And as a test, sort of a test, I took second grade girls from gymnasium who are, say, 8 to 9 years old. Some of them, to my opinion, they were, still wearing the diapers, So 30 girls, imagine, Ragnar. Usually, the noise, the level of noise is like, in a farm, I divided them into two groups, 15 girls and 15 girls. And I gave them a task similar what I would give to you when I would train you and your esteemed colleagues here in Estonia or in Mexico or in the States. And I gave them 60 minutes, 1 hour. I gave them 60 minutes and I let them to negotiate. So there was practically a case or a simulation game, as we call it. There were parties A and B. There were, common area or negotiation arena, as we call it. And there was a conflict in terms of negotiations. So what happened is exactly, Ragnar, what I foresaw 20 years ago. They are the first birds of the generation who tolerate zero waste of time, who don't waste time to chit-chat. And imagine 30 girls, they kept silence throughout these 60 minutes. They were in total silent for 35. So they preferred silencing through rather than talking through. Because, as we say among adults, there are so many things to think about when you really negotiate. How to sit, how to breathe, how to talk about it, how to be empathical, etc., etc. So there is a spaghetti junction around you in a way. So those small girls, they started immediately to find where they can, agree upon. And then they abandoned it because it was already clear. They did not spend a second for talking about what is already clear, unlike, unfortunately, most of the adults. So the level of egoism they carried was next to zero, and vice versa. They went directly to where is the conflict. They represented the different positions, and then one of the smallest girls there, with the nice glasses, asked, on what conditions would you agree to change your point of view? So without any instructions from me. So long story short, again, what I'm trying to say is that this generation will be like you, Ragnar, in 10 years. They will be entrepreneurs, they will be outstanding women top managers, they will be in schools, universities, colleges, etc., etc. There is a completely different generation of negotiators coming. And why should we think that it's limited with Estonia only? It's not. So what I'm trying to say is that the world, it doesn't show the signs of, that the level of conflict is going down. It's not the case, unfortunately. Therefore, the long-term aim, you may laugh right now, but the long-term aim of me personally, of course, is to get a Nobel Prize, in peace, for reducing the conflict in the world by giving the simplest tools to people, especially to youngsters all around the world, starting with Estonia, how to eliminate, to prevent the conflict from the beginning, and how to understand that we do represent the same species. We still are Homo sapiens, even though you have a look like a NASA, uniform, but still you are not a cyborg, right? You are still Homo sapiens. We are the same. And maybe, Ragne, maybe there will be an interim, development stage called Homo paciensis, which is in medieval Latin means negotiating man or negotiating person. So that's basically a background. The resume or the conclusion is that it's not enough to work with adults. We should bring the future to today's life by creating the conditions for youngsters to learn the discipline so that they can be better already at age 10, 15, 20, etc. Thank you.
Beautiful. And this is exactly what I have been repeating for a long time now. If we have the courage to bring our whole selves into our leadership, we actually have the chance to make difference in our ecosystems. And when we inspire and educate our new generation different way, then we have the chance. So George is a great example here, and obviously that's why he is in front of us today. But just let's talk about one very important topic today. We are in a pandemic that nobody could foresee anywhere. Maybe there are maybe a little very small community that did know about it, but okay, we're not going to deal with that currently. But let's say that from your experience and also helping people with their strategic planning for their life and for their career and all of that, what do you see? What are the common challenges now? Because everything has changed. Everybody's life has changed, whether it's a private life or not to mention the business and the professional life. Like, what are the common challenges that people are facing during those pandemics?
Well, it's somewhat difficult to speak for all, as you as you well know. What I can personally say is that these kind of times in life, which are, yes, new for the 21st century, but which have been before several times, unfortunately, during last century, etc. These times can create or may create good preconditions for asking the basic questions again. When you look around in your kitchen or bathroom, even the most, so to speak, simplest devices such as washing machine, they have user's manual. Where is, Ragnar, yours? Where is the user manual? What you can use should you not function, or should there be a malfunction because, outside factors such as this unfortunate COVID-19 thing. So I did not, or I could not foresee 20 years ago that I would ever say this again, but normality is back, and the urge, the need for normality. And if at the end of this year, the mental and intellectual pollution was reduced because the real markets, the real human need did not feel that they need any longer any hocus pocuses and all this dominating esoteric, I'm not saying anything against it, but let's say in a certain ratios or certain proportions it could do. So I welcome normality back, and being forced to sit with your wife and people around you in the same room and rooms and find out the real things and the real talks. that it's the real life is not, unfortunately, talk show as we carry right now. So normality is what is a gift from this pandemia thing, in my mind.
That's a great answer, because I think that we tend to overthink, or we think that we should have like the answers for everything, and we should have been experiencing everything before we even start a new thing. So and that's the entrepreneurship. You're never ready. So if you wait for this brilliant, perfect moment or to arrive, it never will. So it's like growing the children in the family, which you think the day that you think, I think I got it, next day I can promise you, you're like, well, why should I even mention that now when we are in a new era of new thinking? So, but yeah, I agree totally that that back to basics, a lot of things which were long forgotten and should be our real authentic values. I think we have forgotten what our real values are, and we are chasing those shiny things and forget.
Yes, Ragnar, you mentioned this pandemia and this kind of forced situations most of people found themselves in the beginning of year. Well, I did use kind of mentality, or carry the mentality of practical fatalism even before pandemia, which is that when you conduct a training, or when you are head of negotiations team, or Ragnar, when you do your beautiful talk show, why don't you consider each and every performance as a last one? Because there will be a last one. So why don't you give everything and a bit more? Why don't you delight always? So in this sense, the fatalism, the word was kind of a reminder that practical, useful fatalism is not a bad thing at all. Give always more than you can, even when it's, you know, those 8-year-old girls. The public, your audience, your customers, they always realize that there is something more on a table than the deal. And it's a principal difference. Should we meet, Ragnar, next year in Kennedy Airport, would you come, you know, run through the corridor to greet me, or you think, oh, that moron, and you pretend to have a telephone conversation? So why can't we always give everything and a bit of extra, this delight thing? You know, I'm kind of a evangelist of this delight moment. I think it's 2020 thing. Try to give more than expected, and try to be future friend on a human level, being, you know, members of the same species, Homo sapiens.
Exactly. Kindness is always popular. It doesn't matter in which century do you live, but it has to be reminded often in order to really deliver it. So I couldn't agree more. Let's see the art of negotiations. And I know that you have on your plate some very extraordinary negotiations, which you just briefly mentioned as well. But let's try us who you are watching with me to learn from George's experience. And I invite you, if you don't have your paper and pen in front of you, then go and get them, because we will try to give you also some golden nuggets here based on George's experience. So George, let's talk about your team and conducting the negotiations with the deal which was made with Walmart. What would you say, like the I don't know, 3 to 5 the most important things that you would consider that's why it was successful, and what was the one big thing that you really learned out of it?
Very good question, Ragnar. Thank you for asking. With full respect to your audience, there is not much I can say about the content.
Obviously, yes, I understand.
The reasons, However, technically, since I had really an honor to be an architect of those negotiations at certain point, it begins with a desire to achieve impossible, and the same desire is based on a simple yet crucial thing that both Cleveron guys, Estonians, and Walmart, super rich guys, they are again the same species. So there is a human being on the other side. So how to create us, Ragnar, not we and them, but how to create us. So this was kind of a philosophical, if to put this way, philosophical, or let's say very conceptual question, how we are going to make this bond, how they realize, I mean they, by Walmart, how they realize that we are going to build the bridge. So as for negotiations, you do either you are, becoming closer, or you are distancing apart, So this was the main thing, how to create us. And I think it's the main thing. For example, when there is a 5 and 5 guys behind the table, it's simplest math, that whether you are thinking 5 of you about your thing and 5 of them, or there is 10 brains thinking about the same thing. So what is really, Ragnar, the reason why you don't disclose something? What is the price of hiding? I mean, of course, normal strategy and tactics of negotiation, etc., etc., leaving that aside. When you hide something, why do you hide? Maybe when you bring it up, when you talk about this as a truth, fact, and reality, you can tackle it, 2 of you. And when you are dealing with a task, 2 of you, this is called cooperation. And it's one of the greatest pleasures to see that the other part is working as well, not just you. So it unites, it brings you closer. So first thing, as I said, about negotiations with Walmart is kind of mentality what Cleveron had and unfortunately still have. I left a radio studio giving an interview about negotiations, and there was a wrong number calling. So Cleveron guys, they said they heard me. They want to cooperate with me. I said good. Well, next week. No. They said they want now. I said okay, tomorrow. No, today. So we met the same day. And I said, okay, let's let's do it, since there will be negotiations with the Walmart, and I would say one of the most, not just most capitalized, but brilliant in terms of business intelligence people. And they said, okay, then let's start studying negotiations. I said, okay, then in 2 weeks' time, I will prepare everything according to your needs. No, they said, George, now. So we started basically after I printed out the materials, and they learned and learned and learned. And it may seem that this kind of impatience is good in terms of business. And of course, it can be considered as a competitive edge, etc. However, it's not like this just in business, or in a business where Cleveron is all those, robots and IT solutions and stuff. For example, when there was a new gymnasium built in Tallinn, in capital of Estonia, the principal, who was already appointed, the dean of the school, she called me prior, when the fundament, where the lot was there, but there was no construction works. And she said she wants the discipline of negotiations to be taught after 3 years when the school is ready. So understanding that by this this competitive edge in negotiations, you can win, you can make money when you make your 50.00000 Ragnar 1% decisions right, then you earn money. What if the skill of negotiations is this 0.1? So it's a mentality thing that you will not waste time. You talk about only the core thing. And sorry for my French, that your negotiations are zero bullshit negotiations. When you need to chat, for example, really someone won presidential elections, or where are Kardashians now, or something like that, then make a pause in negotiations. Take a break. Chit chat like you go to toilet and then return. Behind the table or during virtual negotiations, be the one who is known only talking about the core thing. So, and another practical angle, what we did, and which is even more valid now, since most of the negotiations are conducted virtually, like we are chatting with you right now. I'm trying to give a practical sample. So there were, let's say, 4 Americans on a video screens on a wall, and 5 of us, clever guys, plus someone who was familiar with the US taxation system, and me as a negotiator, and 6 clever guys connected via Skype. So there were 11 of us, 5 behind the table and 6 somewhere else. Do you follow me, Ragnar, so far?
Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
So 11 guys from Cleveron and 4 guys from Walmart, having this, as we call it, video bridge from Estonia to the, if I'm not mistaken, to Eastern Coast in the States. And we kindly asked permission for 2 things. First, to record the negotiation so that we could listen it and watch it once after the real thing, so that nothing will be lost in translation, as Sofia Coppola would have said. They kindly gave this permission, and I promised that we will delete it, we will erase it forever. And each and every time we truly listened it, and fortunately we could understand everything. So not just linguistically, but because of the signal from one continent to another. So it was done. So we promised and we kept the promise. And the second thing, what we said that we are using laptops because we are connected using Skype. May we? So we kindly also asked permission, creating this us. And Americans kindly said that, well, you discovered or created Skype, now take advantage. Yes. The system which I'm briefly describing right now is my own system called United Brains. So instead of, let's say, when we were sitting next to each other, Ragnar, with you, how would we communicate during negotiations? Whispering from ear to ear, sending post-it notes, apps, chewing gum under the table, etc., etc. So what we did instead, we were not just connected in a cryptid group in Skype, so 11 of us, but we made a solution so that, for example, when there was a, let's say, in our agenda, there was a 0.3.2, let's say, 0.32 regarding, for example, payment terms. And let's say you, Ragnar, is the one now who has to answer to American partners. So from your preparation sheets, you now copy paste it based on what was going on second back then, and you copy paste it to Skype group your potential answer. And the rest from 11, the 10 of us, we had to show thumbs up, or there was a slight opportunity that one of us could come to better solution. So instead of showing thumbs up, he or she would enter his or her version of the best possible, counter solution at this point. And now everybody else considered this as a version 2.0 now. And everybody, including you, Ragne, had now to show, okay, go, or even better version. So in counted seconds, and never it exceeded 10 seconds, we came up with the best possible, like a Sicilian mafia way. Everybody had to agree. And as a result of this 10 seconds, you could say or answer or counter ask your point to Americans. So at almost after every second reply of us, Americans kindly ask the chance to turn off the audio. And based on how they, communicated with each other, we understood they are lost, not because of the content, but they could not understand whatever the topic is. Those Estonians from unknown land, they, within 10 seconds, let's add, 1 second the signal crossing Atlantic, let's say 12 seconds, they replied to everything brilliantly. So after 3 or 4 weeks, they terminated the negotiations, and they said they will come here to Estonia. And instead of 2 of them as originally planned, there was a delegation of 8 Walmart highest officials, Ragnar, 8 of them. Our president gave them a dinner, if I'm not mistaken. So they could not understand how, from a post-Soviet country, okay, the product is great, but still, how team of 11 people could be better behind negotiation table than they were. And so, as they say in Casablanca, before the end titles, this was a beginning of a beautiful friendship.
That's beautiful, and I think the greatest takeaway is also not just preparing the, let's say, content and preparing that, but also have the technical solution and not leaving not one little thing without attention. How we do small things, we do everything. That's the beauty of it. I think so many people are underestimating it. So
very correct, and it's like a chess. You have to define every potential move, even when it's too hypothetical or too unlikely, but yet it gives you a great strength after the negotiations, when you could foresee or establish the conditions that the other part acted like you thought they would. So this was a huge success story. I will describe it in my negotiation book, handbook, which will be out, I hope, beginning of next year. And the third and last, what I would like to share with your audience, Ragnar, is the trick or the magic what we also have invented during these years. Namely, normally there is a stage of information when you negotiate. Ragnar will have to get all information she needs, and the other part has to get information from Ragnar in order to be prepared to an offer, which is a critical point in negotiations where everything actually starts. And it was a nightmare for years how to reduce the gap in between of information you got and the offer you make. There is always basically 2 options: to bid higher so that you will not get the deal, or lower and you lose money. When you think back of this Thomas Crown affair, for example, remember how the hero left negotiations room after he sold something, and the happy buyer said, well, we are the first ones who managed to negotiate with the Thomas Crown, and our hero said, well, say hello to your board and owners, you paid 3 times the market price, or something like that. So what I'm trying to say is, it's almost impossible to make an offer which is correct. And as I said, in real life negotiations, not trainings, but real life negotiations, you know, my customers, they turn to me that where is the negotiating man now? Because it's impossible when you are not, you know, Siamese twins. And considering negotiations as a real discipline, you know, similar to math and physics, etc., I was sure there should be a solution. And we came up with a solution which now worked both in this Walmart case and the many other cases. This is called hypothetical question. And for your watchers and readers, this is the point where to make a mark. Hypothetical questions. These are this sort of questions what you ask hypothetically, and which you are not obliged to do anything what you just hypothetically asked, because they are hypothetical. That's the point. So after you got officially all the information you needed, and when you made sure that other part knows now everything in order to intelligently understand offer or to make offer, then there is a trick or magic called hypothetical questions. For example, dear Ragne, after what we discussed, considering this kind of responsibility, this kind of rights, this, everything, you know, all those characteristics of the potential deal, how would you react when our side would make you an offer, say 100% US dollars per unit? And the trick, what I promised, Ragne, to you and to your viewers, is that when you have been the same normal guy from the beginning, when you have showed and sincerely demonstrated to other part that other person is important for you, not just the deal, when you have expressed that you want to delight it, that life is more than business, then the trick, as I promised, or the magic, is that when you have been normal since moment one, the other part cannot reply hypothetically. He or she has to indicate where in her or his radar would your offer land. For example, Ragne, you would hypothetically reply, hypothetically in a sense that if this occurred, you would reply, should you make George this kind of offer, we would consider it for a first 10 deliveries, for example. And the trick, as I promised to you, is that because of these hypothetical questions, which you may ask them, tens of them, depending on your schedule, you always guaranteed get more information, true bytes of info, than in the official exchange of information phase. I don't know whether I'm clear so far or not.
Well, I understand perfectly, and I think what a lot of people also underestimate is the art of asking good questions, which also really need our focus and practicing, because I think one part which has now been mentioned many times is also that you really truly listen to your counterpart in order to really make the analysis and make the good or better questions that you wouldn't be able to do if you haven't been listening to them. So all those things, I already have almost one full page of notes in front of me, which I'm going to recap for our audience as well. But this is beautiful. I think that that by going through those processes, and as we all know, none of those negotiations is never going to be the same. As long there is, even with the same company, as soon as the one person changes, the whole game has been changed, no? So this is a truly magical, really skill set that you need in order to be successful in negotiations. And I think if we would also apply that patience, that desire, the humanity, which was mentioned here, the collaboration, the unity, all of that into our personal lives and the way that we do negotiate at our homes as well,
Yes.
that would give us so much more. And that would we really take the time to listen before we ask questions, I think it would make beautiful results. What do you think, Georg?
One practical hint: it doesn't matter whether you negotiate, commercially or with your neighbors, neighborhood community things, or within a family. One practical thing is what you already almost mentioned, is the good quality question thing. When you pronounced something which can be understood generally as a question, when there is an invisible question mark at the end, then shut your mouth, put your jaws, teeth together, because, Ragnar, this question is not morally yours any longer. It's their question now. His, hers, etc. It doesn't belong to you. Even when you think that, for example, after Indian food, you feel, something came up and you don't feel good, or grammatically, or it's too early in the morning, to to cough all the time, etc. Even when you think it was imperfect, let it be. After question mark, it's their questions. Maybe they understood it perfectly. Maybe they will give an ideal answer to it, because we cannot realistically do a PhD about every person we will ever negotiate with. It's impossible. So when you have to explain before you ask something, then tell to other part, I have a question, which the reason I'm asking, I'll explain briefly. Then you explain as briefly as you can, and then tell to others, attenzione, attenzione, a question, so that the other part knows each and every second where you are. And similar, when you see this screen, for example, whatever browser window you use, there is always a home button. So where is the home button in your negotiations? So that you always know where you are. People are lost when you ask a question and then give 6 maybe super valid arguments, and facts why you ask it, because they forget the question. Or another thing is to ask 6 consecutive questions. What makes you think that the other part will write them down and then will reply one by one in your interest? It will never happen.
Yeah, that's very true.
Good question is a universal conception which works from Northern Korea to south of America.
Exactly. So let's talk about your book, which is going to be published very soon. What is it about? Obviously, we get the idea, but why and to whom are you doing this project?
It's a handbook. It's a handbook, and as I mentioned before, that even simplest kitchen devices have user's manual. It's an ABC of negotiations, and my dream is being running this self-chosen path of teaching negotiations for youngsters. My dream is that there is about 13,000 youngsters in every generation in Estonia. And let's say when they are 15 or so, my dream is to give them a free copy to each and every of them, this free copy, and there inside the book there is a personal QR code. And through this code, or thanks to this code, you can activate your negotiator's account in a web. It's a dream, and it's kind of frightening how this dream is now not just turning into plan, but into reality. For example, 10 years ago, Estonian Ministry of Education, they did not find time for me. Today, I still keep a very nice message from the Minister of Education saying that, Georg or George, what can we do for you? So it's changing slowly, changing. The aim is that each and every 18 years old is able to prepare, to conduct, and to close negotiations, whatever the matter is. And after running those courses now in 6 schools or so, the results have been amazing. And at the end of each and every negotiation course, I have invited, as a form of exam, I have invited several local adults, so-called generals, using military terms. So newcomers, studying 3 months, and experienced, well-known businessmen, etc. And they always had this kind of negotiation game, and all 6 schools, the youngsters and the adults, it was win-win. So they solved it in a right way, with the golden cut, borrowing from design. And Ragnar, you can imagine when the adults, after making selfies with the youngsters, etc., with the, diplomas, etc., when the adults leave the room and the youngsters who focused for 3 difficult months, the level of noise, the shouting, when they realize they have something like learning how to use a bicycle, so that their life will not begin at 30, then you can be considered as, adult, but 18. And as a last sample about teaching in schools, last year when my class finished at 4 o'clock, 2 guys from my class, they went to work in their own company. It's not, of course, unique in the world, but still, considering our age, for example, it's a new thing in a world.
That's a beautiful future, and that's a very inspiring dream that you have, which already has signs of becoming the reality. I invite you who you are watching this, if you didn't make any notes, go back to this video and make notes, and make sure that you also comment or leave your questions below this video, because then we understand how we can add value to you and how can we support you to make better decisions, how we can support you to win with negotiations. And maybe you are about to have a deal, then you know to whom to reach out. So the next question is our traditional question. So George, give us your 3 recommendations. How to dominate the decade?
Well, first is definitely, before you start negotiations, before you start the preparation, spend time to define how, with these particular people, are you going to create us? Not we and them, but us. How many minutes or seconds, ladies and gentlemen, you need in order to become us? This is first thing. Another thing, give more than expected. Be kind, be polite. When let's say the balance price is 19.98, make it 20. And if you don't tweet it immediately in social media. It will be kind of inner depth, or how do you say in English, depth of thankfulness or something like that. And at one point, the other part will return this favor for you. This was second. How many did I have? How many lives? 3?
Well, we all usually ask for 3, but we have had more. So if you have more, you're welcome to share them. If you don't have them, or you want to leave something that the people will contact you, it's fine as well.
Well, use as laconic but yet as beautiful language as you can. It's not an egoism arena. It's not the show off. It's not what your net worth is, but who you are as a human being. So make your deals as a human being first and foremost. Be known as the one who never cheats, even when it's, profitable. And regarding the vocabulary you do use, then instead of compromise, try to use consensus, because compromise is a nonsense from the point of view of negotiation. When Ragnar, you would say 70, I reply 50, then, well, 60 sounds like let's open champagne. We are so good. It's usually this kind of mathematical, statistical average. It's hiding behind the absence of knowledge how to negotiate. So consensus is something which I'm dreaming that Ragnar will get, and vice versa. Ragnar will be happy with the result only if George is happy. So life is too short to use official channels, and the same way too short to waste time for just talking about negotiations. So when you start your next negotiations, both you, Ragnar, and your colleagues and viewers, first of all, propose maximum 60 minutes, 60, for negotiations, and be the one who is the first who propose the agenda, for example, 4 points. And after each and every agenda point, set the time. For example, most important point, 15 minutes. Next one, 12 minutes. And in this way, you make the agenda work for you. And when the other part, your counterpart, is talking too much, then you can stop him or her by saying that, excuse me, I have a feeling we cannot make it in 15 minutes. Shall we, prolong this time? And where we will take these minutes? And what the other part will do as a counterfavor, because you agreed. So what I'm trying to say is that saving time as our only non-renewable resource, saving time is the base of a new respect. And even when the other part doesn't realize right there that how you save his or her time, when he or she does, it's a base of a new respect. So be as laconic. I would even say 2021 negotiations, Ragnar, are negotiations for autists. When you would see me behind real negotiation table, you would think, I'm stoned or something, because I'm almost all the time quiet, because there is so much to think. Why don't chess players talk or chit chat? The answer is there.
Beautiful. So George, if someone wants to contact you, if someone wants to follow you, ask questions, how can they do so?
Please come and visit me. But virtually www.thenegotiatingman.com is our new virtual home. And basically what we do is the real thing, which is representing companies or organizations or countries to negotiate, to prepare, etc. And there is a school. I'm almost 50, so the school we established is Georg Merilo or Georg Merilo School of Negotiation. And we teach individuals or groups, and we guarantee that you will become a negotiation ninja when you work with us. So what I'm trying to conclude by saying that small can be big, which I tried to demonstrate you in the beginning of this talk show session, which I recommend to review, as Ragnar kindly said. Small can be big by running excellent negotiations. And for the end, for you, Ragnar, and your viewers, what is negotiations? It's nothing more than structuring the expectations of the other party. You are good as a negotiator when the other part thinks you are good. So make it for him or her, and you are good, and you can make whatever deal it's what is possible to achieve. That's it, basically.
George just took the last question and answered the question by himself. That means that he has been prepared. He knows what was supposed to follow. But you that you're watching, today there were a lot of golden nuggets shared, and I think there were some things which are evergreen, and those are, for example, which was emphasized many times, that everybody communicates, but few connects. And the connecting part is really having this us and deliver on that. And the second point, which I consider very, very important, is whether in negotiations or whether in our businesses, is always over deliver. By exceeding the expectation, whether it's a customer, whether it's a client, whether it's your counterpart in negotiations, that will always serve you. So over deliver. And what I really, really love now, really be impeccable with your words. Keep your words, keep the time, set the agenda, keep it, and really show who you are and what you're made of. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful nuggets. And thank you, George, very much for joining us today, sharing all of it. I know I think we could talk another 2-3 hours and we would still going on. But exactly. When you want to know more and when you really want to learn, and you now got your curiosity about the art of negotiations, then go check out the website. Obviously, George is on all the social media as well as George or Georg Merilo. So find him and check him out. And obviously, put your comment or your question below this video. Today, when you write down all those things, I just don't want you to write them down. I want you to take action on them. By doing so, you become the hero of your life, because you have the possibility to change your life, and you do deserve it. So take action, speed of implementation. But also you can become the hero in someone else's life. How? By sharing this video. Because I'm truly sure that there are people that need to understand what the art of negotiations really mean. What are the very simple principles? If you have those 1, 2, 3 things that George was kindly sharing with us, in order, you would already do so much better in all your negotiations, whether it's at home or whether it's with your business. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for investing in your personal growth by listening to all of it, and go back and take action. Thank you very much. I will be here with you in our next episode, and the next episodes will come from Estonia, and a lot of them are related to education. So be tuned, and thank you very much for joining us today. George, Any final words?
Yes, the final word is that thank you, Ragne, not just inviting me, but running all those series. And let me conclude by saying that women hold up half the sky, which means in terms of negotiations that there is no evidence that women are worse or better than men. So be prepared, learn how to negotiate, and you will be as good as men. Women hold up half the sky. Thank you. Take care. And Ragnar, good luck for you. And hopefully soon there will be not 167, but 16,700 videos with you. Thank you so much. You are doing a great job.
Thank you. We will get there. And thank you very much, you who you are watching. So I will see you in our next episodes. Thank you very much.
Be brave.